Hello, everybody out there in wherever the heck you are. Thanks for joining the podcast. I'm Mike. There's Mitch.
Oh shit!
And wait a minute. And wait a minute. For those of you watching on the video there's a third person on the screen.
Who is it?
Hey, I'm Tyler.
We have a guest today. We have a guest, Mr. Tyler Hyrchuk. Welcome. If I had one of those little boards with, applause and all of that, like a DJ, I'd be playing that right now.
You throw that in post, though, right, Mike?
Yeah, because that's what we do. We edit
Mike
this all the time.
do that.
No. We keep in all the crap. We keep in every time we screw up. It's just like, well, I guess everyone's going to hear that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Mike's so good at this.
We joke all the time. It's hilarious that I'm the old, decrepit geezer, and yet I'm the one who thought of this. I'm the one who engineers it. I'm the one who posts it. I don't know why and how that worked out. But yeah,
because Mike thought people wanted to listen to him talk. I just went along for the ride.
I mean, that's why we're in the business, right? Because we want people to hear our voices.
What about you, Tyler? Is this your first podcast?
It's not, no. I've done a few interview-style podcasts. I was interviewed for the Voices.com podcast. There's a Voquent podcast floating around there. I also produce, write, and do some voice acting on an audio fiction series, Peculiar Radio. But
yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard of that.
Yeah.
Are you loving it? Well, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So Peculiar Radio, that stemmed from the Discord, which is where we all met, voiceover Discord called LTM, which I'm one of the three hydras that runs that. It is a three-headed mod team, myself, Lindsay, and Max, and we have a lot of people in there that didn't really have many credits or any credits, so a bunch of us a couple years back were like, let's change that. So let's make a thing so people can get experience writing, producing, directing, voice acting. So our first season dropped last year. We won the Critics Award at the Atlanta Fringe for that.
Whoa.
And we're working on season 2 right now, writing it up. And we got some other stuff coming down the pipe from the Lengthy Tangent production house that we put together.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How much, and this is all passion work, right? This is all, everyone comes together and kind of just collaborates till it's done sort of thing?
More or less. We had a crowdfunding effort, but somebody, one of the other producers, Alyssa Esteban, she was saying that she has experience in the podcasting space too. She has a Witcher podcast called Breakfast in Bouclair, and she's been doing that for a few years. And she said the crowdfunding scene in audio fiction and podcasts is basically you're passing around the same $10 bill. So, we made a few bucks, but it was very minimal compared to what, is potential out there. But more or less for fun, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean, you never know it could pop off. Who knew podcasts would pop off? So
Joe Rogan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He does all right. I hear he does okay.
Yeah,
does, yeah.
a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Most of his money's in Fear
But
Factor.
I really
or
like
something.
hearing, that the reason behind that the audio series. I as a struggling up and coming, just starting to do this voiceover artist who doesn't find a lot of work. It's great to hear that there are people out there that are like, hey, let me create this for people just like you who are trying to find a footing in this, and let's give you some credits. So that's really neat.
Absolutely. And if I at an attempt to not overstep my my station in the industry, you're not a struggling up and coming voice actor, Mike. You're a voice actor. Don't undercut yourself, man.
Yeah. I thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I would that does make sense. It's a good thing to say to yourself. You're not struggling. You're actually doing it every day or darn near every day. So this, the work is, as they say, auditioning and finding work is the work, which is daunting sometimes. Also really fun. Reminds me of a treasure hunt where there's no map or X or
Yes.
And even if you find it, it might not be yours anyway.
And sometimes the treasure finds you.
Yeah, you got to get real good at, silent rejection, basically.
So since we're still getting to know each other, Tyler, which is so exciting for everyone here, I can ask you truly new questions that I've never asked you before.
Yes, these are not set up with answers already predetermined. We're actually going to ask these questions, most of which we have not even come up with yet in our heads. So that's that's how much preparation we do.
I'm going to get one. I actually have one I've never asked anybody. So you're going to have an exclusive question asked to you that I may never ask anyone else ever again. But I'm going to start with a softball.
Based on how it goes?
So excited.
No. You're getting it no matter how much you hate me after this easy question, which is, tell me a little bit about your start as a voice actor, because us not struggling, here's my quotes, not struggling voice actors kind of want to just hear about other people's early on struggles.
Sure, yeah. So I started in radio broadcasting, actually. I took a 2-year radio broadcasting program at a college up here called Humber College. And not knowing if I wanted to go into radio, I knew I wanted to do something with my voice. I was doing silly voices as a kid and really hamming it up. And at the end of my first year, I had to decide what pathway I wanted to go into. So there were 4 options. There was an on-air announcer, production, which was copywriting and audio engineering, sales, and then news and sports. And I talked to my prof, and I said, look, I don't think I want to be a disc jockey. I think I want to go into voiceover and voice acting. And he said, don't go through the announcing pathway, because you're going to learn bad habits that you're going to have to then lose. Cause
at least he knew that.
Exactly, right? Because a lot of radio, people come from radio and have success, but there's this radio voice that you really got to beat out of yourself. So I finished in radio broadcasting with a creative production background. I interned and worked for a couple stations in Toronto for a little bit, and then I moved to northern Alberta, Peace River, Alberta, and I lived there for about 14 months as a copywriter. And the producer there was or the audio engineer, main production, whatever person, was really gatekeeping, voicing commercials because I was a copywriter. She's like, oh, the jocks can voice these. They're the on-air talent. So little devious Tyler was like, can the jocks do a New York accent? Can the jocks do an alien voice? Can the jocks do... So I started writing characters in commercials that I knew the jocks couldn't do. And then she'd come into
one way of doing it.
She'd come into the writer's room and be like, Tyler, did you write this? I'm like, yeah, it got approved, actually, by the client. So they would love to hear that. And she's like, okay.
Wow. That's literally paving your own path.
Yeah.
That is
applause.
Thank you.
Insane.
Good.
So you got my mind
Good
cranking.
scheme.
That's just it. So I did that for about 14 months or so, and then decided I wanted to travel further. So Peace River was, as the crow flies, maybe 5 hours flight away from Toronto. And I thought I want to go farther, so I moved to Australia, and I lived in Australia for just shy of 2 years. Bumped around in different parts of Australia. I picked strawberries. I picked 2.2 metric tons of strawberries in 3 months.
Whoa.
And then I lived in Thailand for a few months teaching English as well. And then none of that is VO related, but
that's cool though.
Yeah.
and then I got back to Canada, Toronto, in the beginning of January 2018. Back to my part-time job at Staples, hawking office supplies and chairs and things.
Woo.
Started taking workshops, and I fell ass backwards into an agent, actually. I took a couple workshops, wanted to get a demo cut, and somebody connected me with an engineer that happened to be at an agency, so I went in after hours, recorded the demo, and then he started sending me the odd audition. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. Didn't book anything. And then a few months afterwards, me and some other voice actors decided we wanted to put together a workshop pitch to have a more established voice actor kind of teach us things. So we were like, we want to learn all of these things. And one of them was how to get an agent. So I emailed the engineer and I said, hey, you've been sending me the odd audition. Are you just being nice? am I on the roster? He's like, no, you've been on the roster for like 4 months. So I didn't know.
Wow.
And I got very lucky in that regard. I also had a family friend that connected me with a writer for an insurance brand up here, so I've been their voice for about 4 or 5 years now. And then I got very fortunate to be the recurring voice of a grocery store chain up here too.
Nice.
And between that and some stuff I booked on pay-to-plays, I was able to then, quit Staples, say goodbye, and move into doing this full-time. And I've been doing this full-time for about 5 years now.
Ooh.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. What? Sorry, Mike. I feel like I'm taking over interviewing,
No,
but
please
I'm
do.
so curious. Where do you think that fire came from to just bootstrap and do whatever the heck you need to, like, your navigating of life maybe from the outside sounds so seamless. It's probably a pretty cut up story that sounds, without hardship, but where do you think that came from, where you just figured it out and then figured it out again?
I mean, pure luck, probably. I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that, there's the privilege of having a supportive family and not having any financial hardships, fortunately. I started working at a very young age, so I had a bit of a nest egg saved up. So when I did quit my job, I knew I would be okay for a few months at least. And I was still living at home. But about 6-8 months after I went full-time, I wasn't doing all that great, but I was like, I want to move out and I want to, I lived with a roommate for a while after that, but, the commitment and the dedication to doing this as a full-time job, treating it as a business, but it's tough because to do this and succeed in this, a lot of times you have to have the availability, and you can't have the availability if I'm sure you can understand this, Mike, if you're working another job, right?
Yeah.
And it was just pure, happenstance that I was in a situation where, by myself. I didn't have a partner at the time. I didn't have any kids or anything like that. So I was able to do that, right? And again, privilege, I would say, my circumstances.
That does make sense. I think we're similar in that, but it sounds like you have some extra grit to you that pulls you to the right places, some sort of magnetism to make you think of outside the box.
Yeah, well, and you seem like someone who goes after what you want. I mean, you moved to Australia and you picked strawberries. Why? Because whatever the reason, probably a lot of it was just like, I think I want to move to Australia.
And I love strawberries.
You went to Thailand. So you've got this drive to, and pardon me asking, Tyler, but how old are you?
I am 32.
Okay, so you're right in that millennial range there of the people who just, do what they feel is right, and that's cool. And I think that fits this industry and Mitch has the same type of thing where you see something and you see an opportunity in front of you and know that opportunity is going to, take some work, and you're like, all right, let's do it. But the benefit of that is this is a fun occupation. And so, for me, if I was trying to start out doing something that was just kind of like meh, then I probably wouldn't have the drive like, you do something that you really like to do. And so, it just sounds like you got to that point, right? You said you moved back home, you lucked into a couple of things, and you and you moved out. And what's the track been like since then?
Yeah, sure. I'll just backstep a little bit to share one of my favorite flaws, one of my nightmare stories from early on in my career. It would have been I think my second in-studio recording. I was still living at home, so that would have been north of Toronto, about half an hour, 40-minute drive into the city. And I was recording for a smoking cessation gum. I think it's called Thrive or something. And I was like super excited. I booked it through my agent. This is the second thing I booked through them. I'm in studio. This is awesome. And this studio, so you walk in and then the studio's upstairs. The lounge is downstairs. So I get in there. I'm still kind of new, kind of, fresh. Do the session. I think it went pretty well. Director comes by, says, great job, you can head downstairs. Cool. Go downstairs, go to the bathroom. As I'm leaving the bathroom, he's like, great job up there. I'm like, thanks, man. And I leave. Don't jump ahead, boys. And so I'm driving home, and I get a call from my agent being like, hey, Tyler, where are you? And I was like, I'm on my way home. He's like, you weren't released. So I had to drive like 15 minutes back, 20 minutes back to get back. The other thing I left out, when I was trying to leave the first time, I accidentally walked into like one of the executive producer of the studio's like offices by accident, and she was on the phone, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And so I come back in, I'm all out of breath and stuff and sweaty.
Yeah.
And the receptionist is like, oh, you're back for the, and I was like, yes, can I go up? And she's like, we'll call up 1 second. And she turns to the executive producer who's like, I'll call up for you. I'm like, I'm so sorry about breaking into your office earlier. She's like, it's fine. It happens all the time.
Oh.
This I don't think has ever happened to me since, this whole situation. But especially, I go up there and the director is like, we were recording the French side of things. So you're okay. Just some pickups that we have to do. And this would have been almost 5-6 years ago. I still don't know to this day if the clients actually know or found out at any point that I left.
Oh.
I think they may have thought that I just went outside to catch some air.
Have a 15-minute
Had a
smoke.
had a big
long
smoke
smoke
break.
No, I would have been gone all told for about 45 minutes probably.
That's a full pack right there.
That is an awesome lesson to learn early on. Gosh, the story was making me sweaty. That's how I knew you were sweaty.
Oh, it was bad. That kept me up for a while. But going back to your question, Mike, so my trajectory, I would say, a lot of it was on the pay-to-plays. And it was, self-marketing, finding myself onto different rosters, trying to reach out to production houses outside of the main hubs. And I got very fortunate. There's one in Windsor that I'm still in touch with, and I've done a handful of things through them. We're shooting a commercial at the beginning of October as well. And he told me straight up, he was like, I get emails all the time from voice actors. And he had a roster of, say, 100+ voices that he would pull from. And I got very lucky in that it was a perfect storm of things where he had just, expunged that list. He's like, I'm going to start fresh.
Whoa.
And I reached out around the same time. So fast forward to 3-4 years later, we've had dinner a couple times when he's come to town, and he told me, he's like, you're the only male voice I have on file, and I have 2 female voices.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that was like we just connected really well. The first few text exchanges back and forth are filthy because we recognize that we're fun, screwed up people, and we're being silly. And he appreciated that I treated him like a human, like a person. And I think a lot of people forget this industry is customer service based. And so to treat somebody more than just, a face on a screen or a name on an email, I think is really important too.
I agree with that for sure.
So,
I try to be as odd as I am in real life, and it seems to be connecting me with people. I mean, now that we're getting into it, luck is on your side. Wherever you think luck comes from, someone dumped a bunch on you, I think.
I think some of it also is, imposter syndrome. I can't take credit. I don't think I can take credit for things that maybe I had something to do with, but
you have ingenuity and you have drive, obviously. I don't think most people in this industry are making it without those things. But yours were a different avenue than is taught. Because, there's that path that we always hear about from every instructor. It's this, then this, then this, then demo, then blah, then blah. I hear that from almost everybody. You got a different path. You jumped around. You made it work. I love hearing those stories.
I also did a lot of stuff, I would say, based on the path that I'm sure you've heard from instructors, wrong. I took my first commercial workshop, and there was maybe 7 or 8 other people. And because I had the experience with radio, I stood out compared to the greenhorns, the beginners. And at the end of that, it was a 5-hour workshop, I think. And somebody else had already signed up for a demo session with this instructor. And the instructor said, look, I'm sorry, Sheila, but I know you signed up for this spot, but after this workshop, I don't think you're ready. But Tyler, so I was like, $500? Sure, that sounds great.
Right.
Wow.
And it was an hour-long demo session. It was for a commercial demo. We did 3 commercials, and then at the end, she was like, "Oh, you lived in Australia for a while? Say like a little bit in an Australian accent. Maybe we can throw that on the end of this commercial demo."
What?
And I didn't know any better, so I was like, "Hi, how you going? My name's Tyler. I'm from Toronto. I lived in Australia for a good time. Oh, hire me, mate. Like, let's go." And
Nice.
it was a terrible demo. And almost immediately, I was like, "This was not a good demo." And then I took an animation workshop. And then right after that, I did a demo. And looking back, like, now I tell people, don't do your demo that fast. But again, in the process of doing the demo, I was connected with, an engineer that worked at an agency that liked me and wanted to keep working with me. And other people that kind of pushed me in the right direction. I've also been doing improv for, 10 plus years. So having the quick thinking and, building the connection in the improv scene in Toronto, I think benefited me as well. So
There you go, Mikey.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, that I love that, though, because, I mean, it's pretty much, there's a mixture. And one of the things I've been learning lately is there is no one beaten path that you have to take in order to have success. And sometimes it's going to take the preparation and the classes and the doing things in the right order and a little bit of luck. And that's not a bad thing, because luck is random, and it can happen to any of us. So, I take solace in that. I want some of your luck to rub off on us right now. So,
a lot of it's putting in reps, too. If you had to guess how many auditions I've done this year, so we're now, beginning to middle of September, how many auditions do you think I've done?
I mean, I'm probably going to guess on the high side just because you asked that question. I'm going to say, how many months have we been in
3,000.
here? We've been 8 months.
Oh,
8.
goodness,
I'm going to say 1,200.
Maybe I really shot myself in the foot here. Only 600 this year so
Okay.
far.
I don't know how many I've done, so that's a lot.
That being said, in earlier years, I think I probably capped out at 1,500-ish per year. But that's one thing that I've noticed is my audition numbers have gone down, but the avenues that I'm auditioning through have gone up, and I've become pickier,
Right.
too. I'd highly recommend, tracking your auditions, where they're coming from, how many you're doing, so you can compare month over month. Oh, this is August. This is a slow month. I'm not going to worry, kind of thing. But if I had to put a number on the number of different avenues that I have between agents, production houses, things like that, probably close to 30-ish, maybe more. So I can do 80 to 100 auditions a month if I'm moved to do that.
It's
Right.
just like stocks. You need to diversify.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds, that's close. I've been swamped. I don't know about you guys this month, but they've been pouring in already, pouring in at the end of August.
Fall
but
really
yeah,
picks up, yeah.
I would really like to keep track. That's a super smart idea.
Yeah, I can send you my template, too. So what I do is I track the source, I track the genre, and then on one page, and that kind of, there's some Excel spreadsheet magic in that. And then on the other side, I'll be a bit more specific, and then, the name and where it came from and all that jazz.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
your own version of a CRM.
I stole it from somebody, but yeah. And I had a CRM at one point, too, but I found that it was just building with leads that I never followed, and I ended up stopping paying. I exported the list, and it's still sitting there. I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, leads are an interesting thing. When they don't respond to you the first time, it's like, yeah. Alrighty. What do we do now? But, man, I've been holding on to this question here.
There it is.
It's invisible. Here's my question. As a Canadian actor, Canadian born, where do you think, how would you compare yourself positively and negatively to your southern counterparts?
Wow, that's a
your
loaded question.
U.S. And not like you don't have to bash. If you want to, I'm here. Like,
Don't even get me started with yeah, I mean, I think that I'm missing a lot of opportunities being north of the border and not having the ability to work in the U.S. because I don't have a visa. But I'm still booking work through the States. I have, I think 6 agents throughout the States. And so as long as I'm here doing the work, I can still, do it. But I think I'm missing out in-person opportunities, and I'm missing out where agents and productions only want to work with American talent. But at the same time, there are a few times where I've booked things where I've been the Canadian, right? Like I'm the voice of the Vancouver Aquarium. I booked that through an American agent somehow, and I've been doing work with them consistently. They're a big chunk of my yearly income. And they sent me that audition because they knew I was a Canadian on their roster.
That's
right?
awesome.
And I don't
Gotta
think
hit those
I sound,
boots.
Exactly. I don't think I sound overly Canadian, but I've had plenty of people, at the end of a call be like, "Are you also in Philadelphia?" I'm like, "No, I'm in Toronto."
Oddly enough, you do sound American to me. I mean, sorry.
I caught a boot in there a couple of times. So
Yeah.
So, have you noticed
do you like back bacon? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We call it pea-meal bacon up here, actually.
Oh boy.
Poutine. Yeah. Okay.
Poutine, yeah, that's a slur up here, actually, Mike. So.
Oh boy. Do you notice like a cultural difference to where like your fellow actors are talking about one thing as opposed to say some of your U.S. friends?
That's a good question. I know I've had a few Canadian VO friends do training, in some of the U.S. online, like, voiceover training Zoom sessions or whatever, and they've had American coaches being like, your reads are off. And they're like, well, I book. And they're like, yeah, but that's not popular with the, with the market or whatever. I was in an agent showcase a couple years ago, and I had like a minute and a half to read, and I went through it. I probably did 10 different commercial reads or whatever. And a prominent agent from, I want to say, New York was like, really nice reads. You would have been big 20 years ago, but that style of read is kind of gone. And then the next agent was like, I respectfully disagree, David. I think he's got some chops there, and I'd love to, send him some stuff down the road. So I think there's probably a geographical boundary in that, there's expectations as being in the States, being American. People in the States are probably talking more about working their way towards the hubs, too. I don't have any intention of leaving Toronto. Or if I do, maybe just outside of the city so I can still commute. Because I want to give clients the option, if I book something through my, Toronto agent, that I can still do it in studio. Because I'd rather do that, so I don't have to worry about any technical glitches on my end.
That makes sense.
Truth.
Yeah.
Hey, Detroit's going to be a hub soon, so.
That's just it, man.
Mitch is going to make it that way. That's his dream.
Hell yeah.
Well, hey, we are closing in on kind of the sweet spot in time. So, I just got one last question for you, there, Tyler. First of all, appreciate you being here. But
thank you.
What's next for Tyler Hyrchuk?
Well, I'm actually in the process of the next right now. I just started teaching at an acting school up in Toronto this past weekend. So I've got a couple classes in person for voiceover and voice acting, and I've got one online. And that came, out of left field, too. I decided after a while, there's enough Toronto-based talent in the Discord that I would do an in-person workshop. So I put that together. I posted on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And one of my improv friends was like, hey, do you want to teach at this improv school or this acting school? I teach improv there. They're looking for a new voiceover coach. And, right place, right time. So I reached out to the guy looking, and he was very happy with my resume. He says I was a real star.
That's fantastic.
Oh, my word. I can't believe you found a man like that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's next, in the process of being the next thing. On top of that, just more recurring character work, I think, is always the goal. Hopping in something that ends up in theaters somewhere. I'm on an animated series in Canada called Me and Cody, where I'm a recurring main character. So I think we finished season 2 recording. Not sure if we're getting renewed for a third season, but that was my first big kind of, oh my goodness, I booked a TV show. And that was about 2.5-3 years ago. So looking for the next one, obviously. But yeah.
Did your head explode? Did your heart and head explode?
My goodness, it was awesome. The casting call initially was looking for a Kramer-esque character, which I just love to see that. And then I read a callback, and that was the role that they loved working with me. And then season 2, they threw another character at me, and I was part of the process and finding out, the voice that they wanted. They threw stuff out and references, and he was in California with like more of a Californian voice, and then he was in Eastern Europe more like this, and that didn't work, but it was fun. And we landed on something that they were happy with. So doing jobs that where there's a character element, because commercials are fun, and I mean they pay the bills, but everyone wants to do more animation and video game stuff, I think.
Yeah. No doubt,
Man.
no doubt.
So fun.
All right. Well, hey,
Wow.
Tyler, again, just really super appreciate you coming on to our fledgling little podcast here. And
little podcast.
Yes, our little podcast. And just, kudos to you, and we wish for more success for you, more luck to just pour your way, because it just seems to find you, Tyler.
Sorry, guys. My hands are so full with all my luck.
Yeah.
It's like, there's another end of that goddamn rainbow. How did I find that thing?
Tyler's got all that luck, and ow, I just stubbed my toe again for the third time.
Right.
Yeah.
Sucking out of us. That's why he comes on a podcast. We're fucked.
Yeah.
We're fucked.
Yeah. He's just sucking it out. Yeah. Next thing you know, what happened to the podcast? It's gone.
Yeah.
Tyler's the new host of Mitch and Mike's voiceover journey.
Can you imagine someone hears it? We really love Tyler. We really loved your presence on that podcast. Can we get you to do that? And then we'll just.
That'll be the first email we get. Hey, we want to hear more of Tyler and less of you.
I'm going to be honest, interviewing is so cool because I don't have to talk a lot, and you're super interesting, and I just love hearing people's stories, so I really do appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no, really happy to be on, guys, and I feel the same way. I love talking about VO. I find I learn something new every time. I mean, it sounds super, like, circle jerky, but, like, just talking about the industry gets me excited. So,
Same.
Well, hopefully you, the listener, got something out of this, too. And look him up, Tyler Hyrchuk. It's spelled lots of consonants. Hyrchuk. Tyler Hyrchuk. In theaters and on Canadian TV near you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Tyler. Mitch, as always, good to see you. And we'll catch y'all next time.
Bye now.
later.